Let's start our today's topic. So we were discussing about vaccines. I told you vaccines have been classified into three generations: first generation vaccines, second generation vaccines, and third generation vaccines. So first generation vaccines, they were known as whole organism vaccines because in that process of vaccination, the whole organism, either in attenuated form, weakened form, or in killed form, were introduced deliberately into the body of the person so that the immune system may recognize the pathogen and will produce antibodies and defensive cells against it. What was the problem with whole organism vaccines or first generation vaccines? They sometimes cause a disease in immunocompromised patients. Those persons whose immune system was weak, when they got this whole organism vaccine, they got ill because of weak immune system. The weak attenuated pathogen, it was able to multiply and it caused the disease. So for that purpose, the first generation vaccines they were avoided. Then second generation vaccines were developed, known as protein subunit vaccines. So instead of administering the whole organism, they only inoculated persons with the surface antigen of the pathogen or with their toxoid, so that immune system can recognize the surface antigen or toxoid and will produce antibodies and defensive cells against it. But it also had a problem. Second generation vaccines also had a problem. They could only stimulate helper T cell response and antibody response. They could not generate killer T cell response. So complete immunity was not provided. Complete immunity was not provided. So then scientists they tried another generation of vaccines, another class of vaccines, known as third generation vaccines, or we call them as DNA vaccines. So how DNA vaccines are prepared? Scientists they work out the gene for pathogen, gene for surface antigen. They work out gene for surface antigen. Surface antigen. Every pathogen has got surface antigens. So these surface antigens, they are coded by genes. So they take out gene from the pathogen, which is responsible for formation of antigen. It may be a surface antigen or it may be a toxoid. So this is the gene for surface antigen, which is present in the pathogen. They take it out. They put this gene into a bacterial plasmid. This is a bacterial plasmid. It is cut. This portion of the bacterial plasmid is cut, right? And in this cut part, they introduce the gene for surface antigen of the pathogen. So this is the gene for surface antigen or the toxoid of the pathogen, right? So they create a recombinant DNA. This is plasmid with gene for antigen, right? Now they introduce this plasmid. They introduce this plasmid into host cell, into host tissue. That means they introduce this plasmid along with gene for antigen into host tissue of a person. So that when the plasmid enters into the host tissue cells, this plasmid it is expressed by host cells. This plasmid along with the gene, is expressed in host cells. So when host cell will express this gene, they will produce the antigen. And this antigen, it will be then displayed by host cell on its surface. Host cells will display this antigen on its surface. This is the antigen produced by host cells, and it is displayed on its surface. Then immune cells, they recognize this antigen immune cells recognize this antigen and they produce antibodies and other cells against the antigen. Against the antigen. So immune system is stimulated. Immune system produces antibodies and other defensive cells against the antigen, and the person becomes immunized. Right? Person gets the immunity. I will repeat it again. DNA vaccines in this they isolate the gene for antigen from the pathogen. As I told you, this is a bacterium. This bacterium has got antigens on its surface. These bacterial antigens, they are recognized by immune system. They are recognized by our immune system. And our immune system produces defensive cells against these antigens. Now they are not introducing the whole bacteria. What they do, they know that these surface antigens, they are coded by some genes, which are contained in bacterial genome. So these scientists, they isolate the particular gene which is responsible for formation of these surface antigens. So they take out this gene from the bacterium. They take out this gene from the bacterium, pathogen, or virus. They take out the gene. And then they incorporate this gene, which is responsible for formation of antigen, into a bacterial plasmid. So plasmid here acts as a vehicle or a carrier. So when plasmid is combined with this gene, a recombinant DNA is formed. A recombinant DNA is formed. It contains plasmid bacterial DNA and pathogen DNA. So when two DNAs combine, that DNA is known as recombinant DNA, right? So this plasmid having the surface antigen gene of the pathogen, it is now introduced into host tissue cells. It is introduced into the tissue cells of the host. When it is introduced into the tissue cells, they express this gene. When host tissue cells will express this gene codes for antigens. So host tissue cells will produce the antigens, and these antigens will be recognized by host cell itself as foreign, and host cell will display these antigens on its surface antigens of the pathogen, which are produced by the host cell. Now, the same host cell will display these antigens on its cell surface, and these antigens will be read by immune system, and immune system recognizes them as foreign, and immune system immediately forms antibodies and other defensive cells against these antigens. So the person starts producing antibodies and defensive cells against the antigen whose gene was introduced into the tissue cells, right? So in this way, the person gets immunity. But there is a problem with this third generation vaccine, DNA vaccine. For most of the time, this gene is not expressed in the host cells, or the host cells do not pick up the plasmid. It has got a problem when the plasmid and the recombinant DNA is introduced into the host tissue. For most of the time, host cells, they do not pick up the plasmid. They do not pick up the recombinant DNA. Or if they pick up the recombinant DNA, then they do not express the gene. So this gene is not always expressed. So a person may not always get immunity. Right? So this is the problem with third generation vaccines or DNA vaccine. Once they solve this problem, once they are sure that this plasmid, along with the gene for surface antigen, along with the gene for antigen of the pathogen, is always expressed, then this method can be used for vaccination, right? So this is under trial purpose. These third generation vaccines or 3G vaccines or DNA vaccines, they are still under trial purpose because for most of the times, either the plasmid is not taken by host cells, it is not picked up by the host cells, or if the host cell pick up the plasmid, recombinant plasmid, but then the host cells, they do not express the gene. They fail to express this gene, and they do not produce this antigen. So it does not always generate the immunity, right? So once this method is perfected, once scientists get perfection, once they are successfully able to make the cells always express this gene, then it can be used for vaccination. So this vaccine is known as third generation vaccine or DNA vaccine. These DNA vaccines, they have got the ability. They can stimulate killer T cell response. They can stimulate helper T cell response. They can stimulate antibody response. So they have a promising future, right? But the perfection of the technique is first needed. The technique is not yet perfected. For most of the time, these plasmids, they are either not taken up by the cells or cells do not express them, and the immunity is not developed, right? So till now we are dependent upon first generation vaccines and second generation. That was all about the vaccination process. Now after this we will discuss what is serum. So what is serum? Serum is the portion of blood. Is the portion of blood left after left after removing blood cells and clotting proteins, clotting factors from it. So serum is the part of blood which remains there after we take blood cells and clotting proteins from blood, along with all clotting factors. So we will write it like this: serum is equal to blood minus blood cells plus clotting factors. Clotting. So when we remove all the blood cells and all the clotting factors from the blood, the remaining portion of that blood is known as serum, right? Serum having antibodies in it. Serum with antibodies in it is known as antiserum. Is known as antiserum. Serum with antibodies in it is known as antiserum. And nowadays, we are providing those persons who are suffering from COVID-19 infection. We are giving them this antiserum. So we take the blood from a recovered person. We remove all the blood cells from that blood. We remove all the clotting proteins from that blood. Then what remains there is known as serum. If that serum has antibodies against the COVID-19 infection, then it will be known as antiserum against COVID-19. Then we will use this antiserum in an infected person, the person who is suffering yet from the infection. We can him this antiserum. It has antibodies against the COVID virus, right? And this antiserum can cure it, right? So serum with antibodies in it is known as antiserum, right? So that is the definition of serum. You know, these antibodies, they are of different types. Antibodies are of different classes. Or we will see first the structure of an antibody. What is this antibody? What are antibodies? We will first have a look at that. Antibodies, they are not cells. So what is an antibody? Antibodies are defensive proteins. They are defensive proteins which can kill a pathogen or neutralize toxin of the pathogen, or can prevent the cell, can protect the cell, can protect the cell, can protect the cell from entry of a virus or pathogen. So antibodies, they are defensive proteins. So they are proteins in nature. So they are defensive proteins which can kill a pathogen. So when they bind to a pathogen, they kill the pathogen. They punch holes in the pathogen, right? Or they neutralize the toxin of the pathogen. These toxins, they are again proteins. They bind to those proteins. They bind to active sites of those proteins. And then the protein does not serve as toxin. When the active sites of those proteins are occupied by the antibody, then the toxin doesn't work, right? So they can neutralize the toxin, or they can protect the cell from the entry of a virus or pathogen. Sometimes they coat the cells. These antibodies, they bind to cell surface receptors. And when all the receptors are occupied by the antibodies, then a virus or a pathogen is not able to enter into the cell, right? So they protect the cells by killing the pathogen, by neutralizing the toxins of the pathogen, or they block the entry of the pathogen into the cell. So that is the antibody. So these are basically proteins. These are basically defensive proteins. So antibodies are not cells, they are defensive proteins. Each antibody is formed of 4 polypeptide genes. Now we will have a look at the structure of the antibody. Antibody is formed of 4 polypeptides. As I told you, they are proteins. So proteins are formed of polypeptide chains. So this protein is formed of 4 polypeptides. There are two heavy chains. Two heavy chains. Two chains are very large, and there are two light chains. Two light chains. So two chains of these polypeptides, they are long chains. So there are two heavy or long polypeptide chains, and there are two light or short polypeptide chains. So this is a long polypeptide chain. This is another long polypeptide chain. So these are the heavy chains. Then there are two light chains. This is a small light chain. This is a light chain. So in this way, these antibodies, they form a Y-shaped system. This protein assumes a Y-shaped structure. So this is a heavy chain. This is a heavy chain or long polypeptide chain. This is also a heavy chain. So these are two heavy chains. This is a light chain. This is a light chain. And this is also a light chain, right? So each antibody is formed of 4 polypeptide chains. Out of those 4 polypeptide chains, 2 polypeptide chains are long and they are referred to as heavy chains. And 2 polypeptide chains are short and they are referred to as light chains, right? This end of the antibody, where light chain and heavy chain are together present. This part of the antibody, it is known as PAB. This part of the antibody, from this end to this end, this part of the antibody is known as PAB. Fab stands for fragment antigen binding region. So this part of antigen, where there is a short polypeptide chain and a long polypeptide chain together, this is known as Fab. And this part of the antigen, which only contains two heavy chains, this is known as Fc. So this is Fab and this is Fc. Fc stands for fragment crystallizable. Fragment crystallizable. So this portion of the antigen antibody can be crystallized, and it is known as fragment crystallizable. This Fc, it can bind to B cell receptors. It can bind to cell receptors. This fragment Fc, it binds to cell receptors. It binds to cell receptors. And Fab, it has got a region here and here. This region of the Fab, it is known as paratope. This is a paratope. This is a paratope. Or we call it as antigen binding site. Paratope is also known as antigen binding site. Paratope. It is known as antigen binding site. So at this site, the antigen can bind to an antibody, right? So this region of the antigen antibody is known as paratope. And on this paratope, an antigen binds to it. This antigen which binds to paratope, it is known as epitope. It is known as epitope. Epitope means antigen. So an antibody has got two paratopes. It has got two antigen binding sites. Where epitope is known as antigen, where antigen can bind to it. So this is one site where antigen can bind to it. This is another site where antigen can bind to it, right? So this part of the antibody where antigen binds to it is known as paratope. So this is the paratope. And the antigen which has bound to it, it is known as epitope, right? So this is the structure of an antibody. So now you know antibodies, they are defensive proteins. These defensive proteins, they are formed of four polypeptide chains. Out of four polypeptide chains, two are heavy chains or long chains. So this is a heavy chain. This is a heavy chain. These heavy chains, they are long chains and they are bent to form a Y-shaped structure, right? Then there are two light chains. These light chains, they are here. This is one light chain. This is another light chain, right? So in this way, they together form a Y-shaped structure. This region of antibody, where light chain and heavy chain are together joined. This is the light chain. This is the heavy chain. This region of antibody, where light chains and heavy chains are together present. This is known as Fab. It is known as Fab. Fab stands for fragment antigen binding site or antigen binding region. So in this region of the antibody, the antigen can bind. Where the antigen binds to a specific site. This site where the antigen can bind to antibody is known as paratope. So each antibody has got two paratopes, one here, another here, right? So paratope is the region of antibody where antigen can bind to it, or we call it simply as antigen binding site. Then on this antigen binding site, paratope, an antigen can bind. Antigen is known as epitope. Antigen is known as epitope. So this epitope can bind to paratope here, right? This this stock of the antibody, which only consists of two heavy chains, right? This stock of the antibody, it is known as FC. It is known as FC, fragment crystallizable. Fragment crystallizable. This part of the antibody can be crystallized, and this part of the antibody, it binds to cell surface receptors. It can bind to cell surface receptors, right? So this is a cell. It has got receptors on it. So antibodies can bind to these receptors. Antibodies can bind to these receptors. So when antibodies bind to these receptors, either they activate the cell, either they stimulate the cell for fighting against the pathogen, or they block the receptors where antigen could have bound to it, right? So they protect this, they can protect the cell from the entry of the pathogen, or they can stimulate the cell for providing defense against the pathogen, right? So this is the structure of antibody. Now it is clear that antibody is formed of four polypeptide chains. Two polypeptide chains are long, they are known as heavy chains. Two polypeptide chains are short, they are known as light chains. These long chains, heavy chains, they combine, they form a Y-shaped structure with a fork and the stalk. In this fork, there is heavy chain and light chain together, and in the stalk, there are only two heavy chains. The tip of fork, where an antigen can bind to it, is known as paratope. The antigen which can bind to this paratope is known as epitope. So paratope is the antigen binding site and epitope is the antigen, right? So this part of the fork, this Y-shaped part of this fork, it is known as FAB, fragment antigen binding region, and the stalk of the antibody, it is known as FC, fragment crystallizable. It has the ability, it can bind to cell surface receptors, or it has the ability, it can directly bind to other membranes of the pathogen, right? So this is the structure of an antibody. Now these antibodies, they have been classified into five major types. Now these antibodies have been classified into five major types.
Okay, sir.
Now antibodies, they are of different types. Antibodies, they have been classified into different types. Immunoglobulin A, immunoglobulin G, immunoglobulin M, immunoglobulin E, immunoglobulin D. Antibodies, they are also known as immunoglobulin. They are the proteins. They are the globulin proteins which provide us immunity. They are globulin proteins which provide us immunity. That is why they are known as also immunoglobulins. So antibodies are also known as immunoglobulins, right? And they are of these following five types: immunoglobulin A, immunoglobulin G, immunoglobulin M, immunoglobulin E, and immunoglobulin D. You know, immunoglobulin G, it can pass through. It passes through placenta to provide immunity. To provide immunity to a growing fetus. to a growing fetus in mother's womb. In mother's womb. So when the fetus is still in mother's womb, his own immune system is not working. So immunoglobulin G, it crosses through placenta from mother's blood and enters into fetal blood to provide him immunity, right? Immunoglobulin A, it also provides immunity to an infant. It is present in milk, colostrum. The first milk of a postpartum lady, the lady who has given birth to an infant, her first milk is known as colostrum. And in this colostrum, in this first milk, there are antibodies. Which antibody is present in colostrum? It is antibody A. It also provides immunity to the infant, right? Similarly, we have got immunoglobulin E. This immunoglobulin E, it is present, it is mostly formed in allergic reactions. In allergic reactions or parasitic or helminth infection. When a person is suffering from helminthic infection or a person is suffering from allergy, at that time, immunoglobulin E antibody is the most dominant antibody in his blood circulation, right? Immunoglobulin D and immunoglobulin M, they are mostly bound to the, they are mostly found in the mucosal areas. They also provide immunity, right? So these are the 5 types of antibodies, 5 classes of antibodies, which are formed in the body of a person. Out of, they are all important. They are all important. But the most important is immunoglobulin G, immunoglobulin A, immunoglobulin E, because it is found in, it is formed during allergic reactions, and immunoglobulin M and immunoglobulin D are also very much important, right? So these are the antibodies which are present in the body of in the blood of a person. Immunoglobulin A, immunoglobulin G, immunoglobulin M, E, and D, right? So we call these antibodies also as immunoglobulins because they are defensive proteins which are present in the body of a person. So I think this is Shipson for today. Thank you for being with me.